Do you ever stop yourself from doing something because you feel you're not quite good enough at it? You're not quite prepared enough for it. You're not quite ready enough and your ducks aren't in a row. Do you ever stop yourself from doing something because you feel you're not quite good enough yet at it? So the topic today is perfectionism. Perfectionism. I see this all the time in my coaching practice and in training. It's quite rampant in the culture. And in fact, I think perfectionism is somewhat contagious. Have you thought of that? So I've seen leaders who are very perfectionistic, and that behavior starts to be, it's modeled and then it starts to be adopted and adapted amongst everyone. This perfectionism. So I love to talk about it because I see perfectionism as one of the biggest productivity thieves out there. And it's a real high-class thief. It parades around in very fancy clothes, and you might not even recognize it because of how it postures itself. Oftentimes it's disguised as caring about quality, right? Hello. Sometimes it's disguised as, what was the other one I was thinking of that was so good? Oh, yeah, just this idea of caring about quality, wanting the other one was the high achiever. I'm a real high achiever, and so I really work hard on making sure that I'm ready and everything, all my ducks are in a row. And let's face it, having your ducks in a row is great. Being prepared is great. Having skill is great. Being ready, all those things, they're great. But perfectionism exists on a spectrum like most things in life. So you want to look at, where am I on this spectrum of perfectionism? Because oftentimes, if it gets out of hand, it really will thwart your ability to make a productive contribution. It will stop you. So now we've talked a little bit about the disguise, how it parades around, very fancy, because we care about quality. I think that's a disguise that I use because quality is great, right? It's I love things being well thought out. I love the craftsmanship of things. So quality is great. But waiting until there is the perfect level of quality, it's almost unattainable, right? And so we never put out there that thing that could help other people, that could be beautiful in and of itself. So let's talk a little bit about what are some of the symptoms of perfectionism. So first is an all or nothing attitude. This is sort of what I was talking about before. I'm not going to start if I don't know that I can't be perfect at this. If I don't know I can't do it perfectly. So I'm going to wait. I am not going to take that risk of being seen less than my vision for this. So an all or nothing. Now, conversely, a high achiever doesn't have an all or nothing attitude. They're willing to take a calculated risk. They're willing to jump in the game knowing that they're going to get better. Every athlete and artist doesn't start at their full potential, right? They start making mistakes and not doing it well, and oftentimes doing that very publicly. So just to go back, all or nothing is one symptom. And that leads into this being risk or challenge averse. So not wanting to risk anything and wanting to sort of wait until you're assured that you can do it perfectly. Another symptom is being highly critical, first of oneself and of other people. So if you notice being highly critical of other people, you probably are doing that to yourself as well. And again, that can have a paralyzing effect if you're overly critical. Now, of course, we always want to look for improvement. So critiquing is great. Improvement is great. But if you get too fixated on that, it can have a paralyzing effect. Also, a difference between high achievers and perfectionists is a focus on results at the exclusion of process. A focus on results at the exclusion of process. So a perfectionist just is looking at that result that they want. They have it in their mind, they see it, and that's the only standard. A high achiever has the result. They have the vision for where they want to go, but they're willing to get there along the way, right? They're willing to look at the process to get there because they actually know it is a process. It isn't, you don't go from 0 to 100, as I said. Also, perfectionists versus high achievers are less resilient. It's very difficult when they make mistakes. They're mistake averse. They don't learn easily from their mistakes. Can tend to be defensive. I don't know who would be defensive, certainly not me, but anyhow. And then a really big clue to perfectionism, maybe lurking somewhere, is procrastination and being paralyzed to act. And that can also get disguised in over-preparing. So wanting, particularly I've seen this for folks like me who have businesses, wanting to take every training, wanting to figure every single piece of every part of the business out before you put out your first offer. And that can just delay you ever really making the impact that you want. So procrastinating or getting paralyzed. Also, procrastinating, being indecisive, not knowing if you going with a decision means you might be going in the wrong way, and so you get paralyzed in the decision-making process. So those are just some of the various symptoms that perfectionism shows up as. You can kind of see perfectionism in those. And what is behind this? So there are therapists for this, and I am not one, but it is an interesting question. And for each person, it's an interesting thing to understand and unwind a bit in order to elevate your own performance. But in general, I think we can look at behind perfectionism is fear. Behind a lot of things is fear, but that are not helpful. But one of them is fear of how I will look, fear of losing status, or wanting to, being a people pleaser and wanting people to like you, all of that. And also a component of perfectionism often is this fixed mindset. So it's the idea, sort of that all or nothing idea, versus a growth mindset where you have this awareness that I am continually getting better. And the only way that I continue to grow and get better at whatever skill, whatever I'm up to, is if I sort of work on my learning edge, if I'm out of my comfort zone a little bit. Perfectionists do not like to be out of their comfort zone. I mean, who loves to be out of their comfort zone? I don't know, not me. But I do know that that's a place of great reward as well. So when I encourage my clients and when I'm working with myself, I look at where is my learning edge? Because when you kind of go for things that are big, the reward of satisfaction, how when you have a to-do list and you check things off, it feels so good. When you check challenging things off, it feels amazing. It feels amazing. So that's where the growth mindset can really help you. So let me see, what else did I want to tell you? Oh, another thing just to keep in mind is there's this sort of attitude of wanting to, or maybe what I should say is keeping in mind that you can't fast forward through the process of growth, through the process of skill development, through the process of getting better at something. So it's through practice, it's through failure, it's through all these things, it's through mistakes, it's through, for me on my Facebook Lives, my ums and so's and all the things. It's through that you have the opportunity to get better. I'll have the opportunity to get better and grow. And that's very satisfying from a human point of view. So with that in mind, I do want to use the example of these Facebook Lives, just my own personal example. I have been putting off doing these Facebook Lives for a long time. I don't even know how many months. I knew that I wanted to start doing them this year, and I didn't start until December because I finally just gave myself a little talking to and thought, just jump. And it's part of this, I think the resistance, the reason I didn't want to is because my vision for how I want it to be and my ability to produce that, there may be a gap, right? And that doesn't feel so comfortable. And I have to be willing to put out a good enough product in order for that, for my own skill and ability to get better and better and better. Make sense? So recently, I've had a couple very well-intentioned and wonderful people. I shouldn't just say well-intentioned. It sounds so bad. So I've had some people reach out to me with suggestions of things that I could improve, or things that I could add or do or whatever. And little do they know that behind the scenes, I'm just like, just press go. So, they're giving me suggestions, and I know right now my capacity to refine a lot or add a lot is not there. I have to prioritize, right? I have to make a priority just doing it, just practicing, knowing that when I get more familiar and comfortable, there are things, aspects of these Facebook Lives, these Facebook Lives that I can improve for sure. So, but that is the thing, it's that critique, it's that suggestion, it's those things that, particularly when you're doing something kind of public, and I guess life is public, but that keep us from moving forward, because we know we're going to get lots of great suggestions of how we could do it better. And right now, I have a very small audience. There is no one on here. I don't even think right now there's no one on here live, so I'm really speaking to you in the future. This is a calculated risk. It's a low risk situation. This is not a Super Bowl ad, So, with wanting to put out great content and knowing that my skills will get better and better at my delivery and handling the Facebook Live, I need to proceed in order to get to my vision. So I also want to give an example. So that's about Facebook Lives, my example of where perfectionism has kept me back. But now I've recognized it and I'm moving forward. I was remembering when I was thinking about this topic, and really the topic came up because of suggestions that I've recently received about, different things I could do to not move my hands so much and all of that. And I thought, oh yeah, this is a good topic. As I was thinking about this, another example I came to from my own experience was in my 20s. So in 2020, I'm remembering my 20s a lot, as I did in the last Facebook Live. In my 20s, I distinctly remember having this, I'm going to call it a quote unquote insight. I'm not sure how insightful it was, but it was an insight to me at the time. I had this insight that this is sort of funny, did not want to journal. Okay, I didn't want to keep a journal because I knew, the 20s are crazy. The 20s for some. The 20s are, for some just a little unsettled, like who am I? What am I up to? What am I doing? And I thought, I do not want a record of how immature or, lack of wisdom or whatever, how I didn't know what was going on. I don't want a record of that. I don't need a journal to let me know how my emotions were all over the place or I didn't quite have it together. I mean, that's a little wild. But anyhow, so that's an example of that perfectionism. I didn't want to journal. It is a little funny because I didn't want to have to look back at my immature self, at my less grown self, at my less skilled self. So that's what we have to get over. We have to be willing to step out into it and move forward. So I want to give you some, tips or perspectives if perfectionism sometimes gets in your way for dealing with it. So first, foremost, how am I getting away from perfectionism? You want to shift your focus from perfection to purpose. Shift your focus from perfection to purpose. What is it that I'm up to here? So my commitment is giving great content, helping and supporting people to live productively in their work life, in their life. So that's inspiring for me. That's what I care about. So if I hang on to that and move forward focused on my purpose rather than perfection, these other things are going to start to take care of themselves. The next one. So focus on purpose, not perfection, and prioritize. So you can only learn so many things at once. You can only do so many things at once. And certainly my small business owners know this is true. There's so many things we all would love to do in our businesses that would be awesome and fantastic. And yet we have to prioritize. And that's true really for anyone. We have to prioritize what it is that we're going to focus on, how we're going to go through this process of improving our skills. The next one, acknowledge effort. So when you acknowledge the effort that you have made, you put in motion that virtuous cycle of motivation. That sense of impact that you're moving forward is very motivating. And so acknowledge the effort that you're making on whatever it is you're doing, even if it doesn't live up to your ultimate standard. So in that way, note your own progress. Go for good enough. Let it be good enough for the situation. So I'm pretty sure my Facebook Lives are good enough for the audience that I have. I mean that in the kindest way. That I know that I have a very warm audience. I know I have, the people that gave me the input are people that are rooting for me, right? So this is my ums and my so's might be overlooked, knowing that I'm staying connected to my purpose, and those things will get taken care of in time. Let's see. Calculate your risk. That's sort of a similar thing. So calculate your risk. Figure out in what domain can I start to expose where I am in my effort in order to be able to improve and get better. Act and iterate. Act and iterate. So take the smallest action, put your valuable content, or sort of like the child who paints a picture and says, "Look, I made this." Like, let that be good enough, and then you'll continue to get better. Act and iterate. Keep refining. Be willing to have room to grow. If we're at 100% all the time, what fun is that? So be willing to have room to grow. Start small. You can see I didn't over prepare. I just created a little list here. Jotted down my thoughts. Be willing to have room to grow. Start small and trust the natural order of things. Start small and trust the natural order of things. So, if you want to start making videos, your videos will be of a certain quality, and start small and trust the natural order of things, that their quality, their production quality will get better and better and better. And then a really great tip, and one that I actually do use and did use today. In fact, the irony of this Facebook Live is right beforehand. I was there. Oh, should I not? Am I ready? Am I not ready? So I had to use Mel Robbins' great technique that she's really popularized of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Just do it. Just show up. And you'll be able to start to play. If you start hitting the ball, in tennis, you'll start getting better. If you start painting, you'll start getting better. But just if it's in your mind, nothing is happening. Your vision is beautiful, but your action is not yet there. And this reminds me of a great quote by Ira Glass. And I will post it in the comments because it's such a fantastic quote that speaks to this. And the essence, or what I got from his quote, was in an interview about the creative process. And he talked about this difficult time when your vision is greater than your skill. So, and he calls this the taste gap. So when we're creating something, we have good taste, right? I have good taste. You have good taste. We have good taste. So we know what we're after. We can see it. It's not like, maybe sometimes you can expand your vision or expand your taste level. But when you're creating something, oftentimes you have a vision for it, what it would be like, how you want to show up. And because you're starting out, you're at a certain level. There's a gap between where you are and your taste, your vision. So you need courage to navigate that gap, to be willing to navigate that gap. And here's a sort of a side benefit and something that you can incorporate into your own purpose. When you do that, you help others do that as well. When you're not willing to play, when you need to be perfect, it has that spreading quality. So let's all jump in and do our best and not let perfectionism be the productivity thief that it can be and parade around in all those crazy costumes that it's high quality and all the things that it actually isn't. It's fear in fancy clothes. And the more we can become self-aware about that, the more we can actually be aligned to our purpose and do great things in the world. So that's today's Facebook Live. I don't think there's anyone on here live. So I'm speaking to you in the future, which is kind of cool. And I'd love to hear from you. If you've experienced perfectionism, if you've had to deal with perfectionism, and what you did, how you've dealt with it, or what you've struggled with and how you dealt with it. So I'd love to hear. I will put that quote from Ira Glass in the comments. And finally, once again, I want to remind you that Power Start 2020 starts next week. It is a program designed to help you make significant progress on your goals. Progress, not perfection, significant progress on your goals in the first 90 days of the year. So it really is almost like a little trampoline, little boost into 2020, starting really strong. And as I said, I think yesterday, this is not about getting a lot of productivity information to fill your brain and make you feel burdened that you have more things to do. No, this is about just having a structured format for you to intentionally move forward on your goals for the year. They could be work goals, professional goals, personal goals, anything. So it could be qualities you want to pursue. So that's what's happening. I would love to have you join us. I'm going to be offering this year individual coaching for anyone that would like it in the program. You can work the program however you want. There's a video each week that has a certain focus, and you can watch those whenever you have time to watch them. You can participate in the group or kind of be on your own. It's really up to you how you want to proceed with the program. It's very flexible that way. So I hope you'll consider joining us. It's a great group. I'm super excited about the people who have joined and are getting revved up. There's a little buzzing energy about people's goals that I'm hearing about. So I'm excited. I hope you'll consider joining us, and I'll put information about the program in the comments below. So have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see y'all. Oh, I like that. So Southern. I will see you all next Tuesday. See you later.